London, 1974. A 48-year-old health food enthusiast was found dead after drinking an excessive amount of carrot juice. The coroner ruled his death that of lethal amounts of vitamin A. The scientist consumed more than 70 million units, or 38 liters, of vitamin A in just 10 days. In addition, he was drinking about a gallon of carrot juice a day during that time. His skin was reportedly a bright yellow when he died. The pathologist who performed the autopsy said that the effect of enormous intake of vitamin A from carrots and tablets that he was digesting was indistinguishable from alcohol poisoning. It produces the same result, he said: cirrhosis of the liver. A man went missing on March 25, 2017 after setting off for harvest in a remote village on the western part of Indonesia. His remains were found 2 days later inside the body of a python snake. He was a local villager named Akbar. The morning after Akbar was reported missing, a search party was sent out, and later that day, people found the large snake and noticed that it had difficulty moving due to its large belly. Residents then cut open the belly of the snake and found Akbar dead inside. People also said they heard cries from the palm grove the night before Akbar was found eaten by the snake. This was the first confirmed case of a python killing and consuming an adult human, as the process of retrieving the body from the python's stomach was documented by pictures and videos taken by the witnesses. About a year later, on June 14, 2018, a 50-year-old woman, also of Indonesia, was eaten whole by a reticulated python that had slithered into her home. A 3-month-old baby was eaten alive by giant rats after her mother left her at home alone to go out for the night. The 26-year-old mother returned to her home at dawn to find the remains of her daughter in her blood-soaked bed. A neighbor was alerted by the screams and rushed inside the home to find the bloody scene. The infant's tongue, eyes, and fingers had all been eaten. Besides the missing body parts, the remains of her body had bite wounds all over. This disturbing incident happened in Johannesburg, South Africa. The mother wouldn't admit to leaving the child home alone and claimed that the wounds were accidental burns, which was later confirmed to be bite wounds. Angry locals who gathered after the police took the mother away said that she had been drinking all night at a local bar. The landlord said the mother came running out of her house around 6:30 a.m. screaming after discovering her baby. The landlord also said she typically leaves the children alone at night, and they cry themselves to sleep. After the woman's arrest, the father of the twins, aged 28, came to get the surviving boy, who is now in the care of his new girlfriend. Just a month earlier, their 77-year-old grandmother also died when these giant rats ate her alive in her sleep. This isn't the only case of killer rats either. An Arkansas couple remains in jail on child endangerment charges after rats fed on their 15-day-old infant. According to official documents, they brought their baby to the hospital where medical personnel counted at least 100 bites on the child's face, arms, and hands. The 5-pound baby required facial reconstructive surgery, and detectives say the infant's tender skull was visible through a forehead wound. Officials estimate that the rodent's attack on the defenseless infant lasted several hours. The girlfriend allegedly told police that she woke early Sunday morning to the baby's cries and discovered that the child was covered in blood. Police allege that the boyfriend woke earlier to the child's cries and noticed bloody rat footprints in the baby's crib, but took no action. Police say the couple admitted that their home was infested by rats, and they did nothing to deal with it. The police documents say the couple so feared losing their child that they held off on bringing the baby for medical treatment. In medicine, the Isadora Duncan syndrome refers to injury or death consequent to entanglement of neckwear with a wheel or other machinery. Angela Isadora Duncan was an American dancer who performed to great acclaim throughout Europe. Born and raised in California, she lived and danced in Western Europe and the Soviet Union from age 22 until her death at age 50, when her scarf became entangled in the wheels and axle of the car she was riding in. Duncan was known as the Mother of Dance and well renowned for many years, but by the late 1920s her performing career had dwindled, and she became notorious for her financial woes, scandalous love affairs, and other deviant acts. She spent her final years moving between Paris and the Mediterranean, sinking further into debt. She would often wear long, flowing scarves around her neck, and on the night of September 14, 1927, Duncan was a passenger in a car driven by a French-Italian mechanic. The silk scarf draped around her neck became entangled around the open-spoked wheels and rear axle of the car, pulling her from the vehicle and breaking her neck instantly. As the New York Times noted in her obituary, Duncan met a tragic death. According to dispatchers, Duncan was hurled in an extraordinary manner from the open automobile and instantly killed by the force of her fall to the stone pavement. Other sources noted that she was almost decapitated by the sudden tightening of the scarf around her neck. Duncan was cremated, and her ashes were placed next to those of her children at a cemetery in Paris. Farmer Terry Vance Garner, 69, from Coos County, Oregon, was eaten by his own pigs. Nothing but his dentures and a few small body pieces were recovered. Investigators believe the hogs may have actually knocked Garner over deliberately to eat him. One of the enormous pigs supposedly bit the farmer once before. Family members said he left to feed the pigs and never came back. The pigs nearly devoured his entire body in just a few hours. Most pigs in the U.S. are raised until they reach market weight, which is normally between 250 and 300 pounds. In fact, it's rare to have a pig weighing more than 400 pounds. But Farmer Garner's pigs were extremely large and weighed in at nearly 700 pounds. The first recorded case of a pedestrian fatality involving a self-driving vehicle happened on March 18, 2018. Elaine Hertzberg was pushing a bicycle across a 4-lane road in Tempe, Arizona, when she was struck by an Uber test vehicle, which was operating in self-drive mode, but with a human safety backup driver sitting in the driver's seat. She was taken to the local hospital where she died of her injuries. Following the fatal incident, Uber suspended testing of self-driving vehicles in Arizona, where such testing had been sanctioned since August 2016. Uber chose not to renew its permit for testing self-driving vehicles in California when it expired at the end of March in 2018. A Washington Post reporter compared Hertzberg's fate with that of Bridget Driscoll, who was the first pedestrian to be killed by an automobile in 1896. The Arizona incident has certainly magnified the importance of collision avoidance systems for self-driving vehicles. On February 29, 2020, several people gathered for a sauna party in an indoor swimming pool in Russia. The party was for a well-known blogger who was celebrating her 29th birthday. Her husband was among the 3 fatalities after he unloaded dry ice to create a dramatic visual effect inside of the pool. The victims were unable to breathe, and some were also left with chemical burns. 3 people were killed, and 7 rushed to the hospital. 3 partygoers were confirmed dead at the scene, and it's believed they were the 3 in the pool when the dry ice was released. As soon as the ice was poured, people started to faint. Dry ice is frozen carbon dioxide and produces heavy vapor when put into water. The vapor can cause high levels of carbon dioxide in blood when released in a poorly ventilated space, inadvertently displacing oxygen. A man with a request to be killed and eaten voluntarily answers a cannibal's ad. A German former computer repair technician named Armin Muse achieved international notoriety for killing and eating a voluntary victim in 2001, whom he had found via the internet. Looking for a willing volunteer, Muse posted an advertisement in a forum for people with a cannibalism fetish. Muse post stated that he was looking for a well-built 18 to 30-year-old to be slaughtered and then consumed. Brands, an engineer from Berlin, answered the advertisement in March 2001. The two made a videotape together when they met on March 9th in Muse's home. Brands swallowed 20 sleeping pills and a bottle of cough syrup before allowing Muse to chew into his flesh while he was still alive. Brands also attempted to eat pieces of his own flesh before he was stabbed in the throat and hung on a meat hook. The incident was recorded on a 4-hour videotape, which has not been released to the public. Muse dismembered and ate the corpses over the next 10 months, storing body parts in his freezer. He allegedly consumed up to 44 pounds of the flesh, according to the prosecutors who viewed the tapes. Muse was arrested in December 2002 when a college student alerted authorities to new advertisements for victims online. Investigators searched his home and found body parts and the videotape of the killing. On January 30th, 2004, Muse was convicted of manslaughter and sentenced to 8 years and 6 months in prison. However, in a retrial in May 2006, he was convicted of murder and sentenced to life imprisonment. Because of his acts, Muse is also known as the Rottenburg Cannibal or the Master Butcher. A corporate and security law specialist in Toronto, Canada, died when he was giving a tour of the Toronto Dominion building to a group of students when he fell 24 stories from an office window. He would often perform a stunt where he would run and slam himself against the glass windows to prove they were unbreakable. He had supposedly done this numerous times in the past, having previously bounced harmlessly off. However, in this instance, the force of him slamming into the window forced the window from its frame, causing the entire intact window to fall from the building. The event occurred in a small conference room adjacent to the boardroom where a reception was being held. Structural engineer Bob Greer was quoted by the Toronto Star saying, "I don't know of any building code in the world that would allow a 160-pound man to run up against the glass window and withstand it." In another interview, the firm's spokesman mentioned that the glass, in fact, did not break, but popped out of its frame, ultimately leading to the man's fatal plunge. His death contributed to the closing of the Holden Day Wilson in 1996, at the time the largest law firm closure in Canada. Vic Morrow was a prominent actor known for numerous blockbuster films and highly acclaimed roles throughout the 60s, 70s, and 80s. In 1982, he was cast in a feature role in the Twilight Zone movie, in a segment directed by John Landis. In the early morning hours of July 23, 1982, Morrow and 2 child actors were filming on location in California, in an area that was well known as the Indian Dunes, near Santa Clarita. They were performing a scene for the Vietnam sequence, in which their characters attempt to escape a deserted Vietnamese village from a pursuing U.S. Army helicopter. The helicopter was hovering at approximately 24 feet above them when the heat from the special effect pyrotechnic explosions reportedly damaged the rotor blades. It caused the helicopter to crash on top of them, killing all 3 instantly. Morrow was decapitated by the helicopter rotor blades. The director, Landis, and 4 other defendants, including the pilot, were ultimately acquitted of involuntary manslaughter after a nearly 9-month trial. Morrow now rests in Hillside Memorial Park Cemetery in Culver City, California. The British businessman who bought the Segway company died just a year after buying the business. He rode one of the scooters off of a cliff and into a river near his Yorkshire estate. Jim Heselden, known locally as Jimmy, acquired the Segway company from its U.S. inventor in December 2009. According to the British media, Heselden, 62, plunged into the river while riding a rugged country version of the two-wheel transporter. Police said a witness had reported seeing a man fall over 30 feet to the river near Boston Spa. His estate was worth more than $265 million, and he was ranked in the top 400 members on the Sunday Times Rich List. A 45-year-old man named DeSouza was in bed with his wife when a cow fell through the ceiling of their home in southeast Brazil. The cow was believed to have escaped from a nearby farm and climbed onto the rooftop of the couple's house, which backs onto a steep hill. The corrugated roof immediately gave way, and the 1.5-ton animal fell 8 feet onto Mr. DeSouza's side of the bed, crushing him instantly. Incidentally, the cow was unharmed. While his wife and the animal were fine, DeSouza suffered a fractured leg and was taken to the hospital. After spending several hours at the hospital, the 45-year-old Brazilian passed away, likely a result of internal bleeding. DeSouza's brother told a Brazilian newspaper, "Being crushed by a cow in your bed is the last way you'd ever expect to leave this earth." In a translation provided, he also said, "But in my view, it wasn't the cow that killed him. It was the unacceptable time he spent waiting to be examined." A man by the name of Draco was the first recorded legislator of Athens in ancient Greece. He replaced the prevailing system of oral law and blood feud by a written law to be enforced only by the court. Draco was the first democratic legislator requested by the Athens citizens to be a lawgiver for the city-state. But the citizens were completely unaware that Draco would establish laws characterized by their forthcoming actions. One day, when Draco was at a theater in town, the townspeople began to shower him with gifts of love. They threw hundreds of cloaks and hats, showing their appreciation. Unfortunately, Draco was incidentally smothered to death by all of the gifts. He suffocated while trapped beneath a pile of clothing and presents. Murderous Mary was a 5-ton elephant who used to perform in the Sparks world-famous circus in the early 1900s. On September 11th, 1916, a homeless man named Red Eldridge, who worked as a hotel clerk, was hired as an assistant elephant trainer by the Sparks world-famous circus. He was killed by Mary in Sullivan County, Tennessee, the very next day, September 12th. The unqualified Eldridge led the elephant parade, riding atop Mary's back. Mary was the star of the show, walking at the front of the line. There were several accounts of his death by onlookers. One recounted by W.H. Coleman, who said Eldridge prodded her behind the ear with a hook after she reached down to nibble on a watermelon. She went into rage, snatched Eldridge with her trunk, threw him against a drink stand, and stepped on his head, crushing him. A newspaper account from the Johnson City staff said that Mary lifted Eldridge 10 feet in the air and then threw him with fury to the ground, and with full force sunk her giant tusks through his body. The animal then trampled the dying Eldridge in a murderous triumph. Onlookers began chanting, "Kill it! Kill the elephant!" And within minutes, the local blacksmith, Hench Cox, tried to kill Mary, shooting her 5 times, which only enraged Mary more. The circus owner, Charlie Sparks, decided that the only way to quickly resolve the situation was to kill the wounded elephant in public for everybody to see. The following day, a foggy and rainy September 13th, Mary was transported where a crowd of over 2,500 people, including most of the town's children, assembled to watch the death of Mary. The elephant was hanged by the neck from a rail car-mounted industrial crane. The first attempt resulted in a snapped chain, causing Mary to fall and break her hip as dozens of children screamed and ran. The severely wounded elephant died during a second attempt and was buried beside the tracks. A veterinarian examined Mary after the hanging and determined that she had a severely infected tooth in the precise spot where Eldridge had prodded her. Gloria Ramirez was an American woman from Riverside, California, who was dubbed the Toxic Lady or the Toxic Woman by media when several hospital workers became ill after exposure to her body and blood. She had been admitted to the emergency department while suffering from late-stage cervical cancer. While treating Ramirez, several hospital workers fainted, and others experienced symptoms such as shortness of breath and muscle spasms. 5 workers required hospitalization, one of whom remained in an intensive care unit for 2 weeks. An investigation by Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory proposed that Ramirez had been self-administrating a treatment for pain, which converted into an extremely poisonous and highly carcinogenic agent via a series of chemical reactions induced inside the emergency department. Although this theory has been endorsed by the Riverside Coroner's Office and published in the journal Forensic Science International, it's still a matter of debate in the scientific community. A 28-year-old mother of 3 from Sacramento, California, died of water intoxication while trying to win a Nintendo Wii console in a local radio station competition. The segment was called Hold Your Wii for Wii, where contestants had to drink as much water as possible without using the bathroom. Assistant Sacramento County Coroner Ed Smith said a preliminary investigation found evidence consistent with a water intoxication death, also known as hyponatremia. Water intoxication occurs when the body's sodium levels fall below normal. Overdrinking dilutes the sodium in the bloodstream, causing the brain to swell and push against the skull. Symptoms include nausea, vomiting, weakness, and in severe cases, seizures, coma, and death. Her family was later awarded $16.5 million by a California jury. Adolf Fredrik, King of Sweden, died of digestion problems after having consumed a meal of lobster, caviar, sauerkraut, smoked herring, and champagne, topped off with 14 servings of his favorite dessert. He is remembered by the Swedish school children as the king who ate himself to death. Adolf Fredrik was King of Sweden from 1751 until his death. The king was regarded both during his time and in later times as dependent on others, a weak ruler, and lacking of any talents. But he was allegedly also a good husband and a caring father, and a gentle master to his servants. He remained a mere constitutional figurehead until his death. Attorney Clement Vallandigham, leader of the Copperhead faction of the anti-war Democrats during the American Civil War. He served 2 terms in the United States House of Representatives. Vallandigham died at the age of 50 after accidentally shooting himself in the abdomen with a pistol. He was representing a defendant, Thomas McKeegan, in a murder case for killing a man in a ballroom brawl in Hamilton, Ohio. Vallandigham attempted to prove the victim had in fact accidentally shot himself while drawing his pistol from a pocket. Selecting a pistol he believed to be unloaded, he put it in his pocket and enacted the events as they might have happened, snagging the loaded gun on his clothing and unintentionally causing it to discharge into his stomach. Although he was fatally wounded, Vallandigham's demonstration proved his point, and the defendant, Thomas McKeegan, was acquitted and released from custody. Mary Reeser of St. Petersburg, Florida, was found in her apartment on July 2, 1951. The landlord said to have called the police because of a strange heat coming from Mary's apartment. Police arrived at her home to find a 67-year-old Mary Reeser burnt to death in a mysterious fire. Not much remained of Reeser except a partial leg and foot with a slipper that curiously showed no signs of burning. A piece of her skull also remained, but it was described in reports as shrunken in size and abnormally small. Oddly enough, only the chair she sat in was burned. Nothing else in the apartment showed signs of charring. It requires 3 to 4 hours of 3,000-degree temperatures to cremate a body, so the case of Mary Reeser was unheard of until it was brought to the attention of authorities that this was in fact a human combustion case. This is when a person bursts into flames from a chemical reaction in their body without any external heat sources. FBI took over this case and officially ruled it a fire, although many scientists will debate otherwise. There have been several cases of alleged spontaneous human combustion, but this one is the most widely documented case in its field and recognized as a legitimate report. It's a crazy world out there, and there's no telling what we might find, or how it might find us. Until next time, I'm Jack Helms. Thanks for joining me on our journey into the world's most bizarre case files.